All right, another special day here brought to you directly from the nation's capital where we, take a look at everything happening up close. Still fighting for you for the foxhole of freedom. We dig one right here every single time. Warning, the Steve Gruber Show can result in extended periods of American pride, optimism, and enthusiasm in this country's future. We're kicking off the live broadcast day on Real America's Voice at MTN, reaching a growing global audience. Thank you for being here. It's the Steve Gruber Show. Three big things you need to know this hour. Number one, Vladimir Putin has told President Trump he will be responding with massive force in response to Ukraine's drone attack on the Russian warplanes that destroyed 40 or more. Number two, in one of the first things that actually shocked me lately, Karine Jean Pierre, the longtime Joe Biden press secretary and defender, has left the Democrat Party to become an independent and, of course, to sell a book. And number three, a shocking case out of Michigan that we first told you about yesterday that could put the entire food supply in jeopardy, where two Chinese nationals, 33-year-old Karine Jean and 34-year-old Ziyang Liu, have been charged with smuggling a dangerous fungus into the United States. The FBI calling it a potential agro-terrorism threat. The fungus, Fusarium graminearum, could devastate crops like wheat and barley, rice and corn, costing billions and producing toxins that cause serious illness in humans and animals alike. Authorities say the pair planned to study the pathogen at a University of Michigan lab where Jean was a researcher. Customs officials caught her boyfriend Liu last July at Detroit Metro Airport, DTW. The fungus was hidden in his luggage and in his boots. He initially denied it, but later confessed that he wanted to use it for research. Jean, meanwhile, had ties to the Chinese Communist Party and was funded by the Chinese government, raising major red flags for national security. Look, this would devastate our food supply, folks. Jean's in custody awaiting a bond hearing. Liu deported to China last year, probably to a hero's welcome. Or maybe not. FBI Director Kash Patel released a statement on the case saying this: the case is a sobering reminder that the CCP is working around the clock to deploy operatives and researchers to infiltrate American institutions and target our food supply, which of course would have grave consequences. It puts American lives and our economy at serious risk. It puts the whole country at risk. Senator Bill Hagerty applauded Patel for leading the effort on catching these terrorists. Here's what he said.
I think we need to be extremely careful, particularly when you think about the movement that we've had with Chinese nationals, particularly those affiliated with the PLA, moving into our university system. That was precisely the case here. And we need to be very, very careful about who comes in, what they're bringing with them. And make no mistake, and I'm so pleased that Kash Patel is in the position he is in, because he's seeing right through all of this. Make no mistake, the Chinese Communist Party is not our friend. This sort of infiltration, this sort of act of agro-terrorism is the last thing we need to see on American soil, and the only way to prevent it is by waking up and realizing that we've got to be extraordinarily careful as we allow anybody to come into this country.
Totally true. This fungus has the ability to destroy our food supply. Coming from the same communist nation that brought us the China virus. I mean, come on now. The same China that most likely smuggled bacteria-ridden tree clippings into Florida in 2005 and infected virtually all of the state's orange groves with a disease that has drastically reduced the yield of those trees. I mean, it's one thing after another. The same China that has depleted the world's oceans of fish because of their 800,000 fishing vessels that don't respect basic stewardship principles that the rest of the world is following. Sustainability, it means nothing to China. Bottom line, this nation is an enemy of ours. An enemy. And we need to start acting like we understand that. I want to hone in big on where I see this in my home state of Michigan, where this Chinese couple was going to unleash a known agro-terrorism threat. Now, currently we have antifungals, but if this pathogen had become stronger, it would have been devastating. I live in the beautiful state of Michigan. We've got great lakes, great food, great land, and great people. And China would love nothing more than to see it decimated and brought under communist control. I'm afraid that institutions like the University of Michigan, that keeps coming up over and over and over again, and my own governor, Gretchen Whitmer, are allowing that goal to become closer. The would-be agro-terrorist Karine Jean was a research fellow at the University of Michigan and a bankrolled loyalist to the Chinese Communist Party. This is not the university's first dust-up with the CCP. It seems that all roads continued to lead back to U of M. In August 2023, 5 Chinese nationals, all University of Michigan students, in a joint program with Shanghai Jiaotong University, or SJTU, caught at Camp Grayling. That's a Michigan National Guard base, but it's the largest training facility for the military in America. During a Northern Strike military exercise involving Taiwanese forces, around midnight, a Utah National Guard sergeant found them near Bear Lake, allegedly taking photos of military vehicles and sensitive equipment. One claimed they were the media. But they quickly left after being ordered to do so. The students later told the FBI they were there to see a meteor shower, but evidence including WeChat messages and photos on a hard drive showed they discussed the encounter, deleted incriminating photos to cover their tracks, and much more. They weren't there for a meteor shower, and they certainly weren't journalists. The FBI charged the crew in October of 2024 with conspiracy, lying to investigators, destroying evidence, though not directly for espionage, but we're not sure. The incident prompted Congressman John Molinar and other Michigan lawmakers to push for U of M to end its 20-year partnership with SJTU, citing national security risks. The University of Michigan's partnership with SJTU ended this year, but what was it? The Shanghai Jiaotong University is a Chinese university with ties, direct ties, to the CCP and China's military. How is this not obvious? Research from this partnership reportedly advanced Chinese defense technologies, some involving the People's Liberation Army and its researchers. We're helping to educate our enemy, the biggest enemy we have on the planet. We're teaching them how to be better. A September 2024 report by the House Select Committee on the CCP highlighted how U.S. taxpayers funded research at U of M and was aiding Chinese military capabilities. Following pressure from Congressman Molinar, U of M announced in January of this year that it would terminate this partnership and said they were committed to improving visa vetting for international students. Yeah. Oh, sure. Apparently not committed enough, considering our food supply was almost just decimated. Molinar has been raising the alarm on all of this since he started representing our great state. Here is a quote from him.
The CCP is engaged in a persistent strategic campaign to influence every corner of American life.
He's exactly right.
And one of their most dangerous efforts is to target our...
We're going to get that entire comment because it's important. But there's a preview. There are people smart enough to figure out what's going on. Congressman Molinar is one of them. He's a friend of mine. He'll be on the program in the next couple of days to discuss this in person. We'll take a break. You need to know what we're talking about here because our entire food supply was being targeted. That's why we can't have open borders. I'll be right back. It's the Steve Gruber Show. All right, picking up where we left off, because this is really important. Congressman John Molinar has been raising the alarm about all of this Chinese infiltration into Michigan and to the United States in general. He's been one of the clarion voices out there saying, we've got to pay attention to this. Here it is.
The CCP is engaged in a persistent strategic campaign to influence every corner of American life. And one of their most dangerous efforts is to target our education system. Often disguised as cultural exchange programs, the CCP efforts to infiltrate America's universities are intended to manipulate curriculum, suppress academic freedom, and monitor Chinese students here in the United States. Let's be clear, the Chinese government isn't investing in these programs to teach language. They're trying to shape how young Americans see the world, to rewrite the story of the Chinese Communist Party, one classroom at a time. This is part of a broader effort by Beijing to manipulate the next generation, whether through TikTok on their phones or authoritarian propaganda on their campuses.
Yeah, it's time to teach our children about the Great Leap Forward, 1958, 59, 60. Millions, tens of millions of Chinese died. That should be something that should be mandatory education in American schools, in all schools. Just this week, Molinar, by the way, brought the issue to our Education Secretary, Linda McMahon, who said it's on her radar as well. Here's what she said.
Are you familiar with the efforts by the CCP to influence American education?
By things I have heard, yes. And one of the things that we are stressing very, very much under Section 117 is to make sure that these colleges and universities are complying with the law and reporting to us when they have received donations over the $250,000 minimum. We found that there are many that are not doing that. One of the things that we've put in place is to make sure that as universities are looking at their hiring practices, what kind of vetting are they doing with those particular professors that they're bringing in, or students that might be coming in on campus? What can be that effect and that influence? But it is very important, I think, for us to know how much money is coming in from foreign countries.
Yeah, clearly very important. Missouri Senator and former AG in that state, Eric Schmidt, says, you know what? Let's draw a line in the sand. We don't need any CCP sympathizers on our campus. None. Here's what he said.
No one affiliated with the CCP, and I've got legislation with this, should have a visa to be a student in any university in the United States of America. We are under no obligation to educate and train people affiliated with our enemy. And that's exactly what's happening here. So I think, Lord, it starts with a recognition of who we're dealing with. This is a communist regime that has concentration camps, and they're hell-bent on world domination. So we shouldn't be lax on this at all. The full force of the law should come down on them. We should prevent anyone associated with the CCP from being at any of our universities. This would open up, my legislation would open up about 300,000 spots for American students. So if you have a family member that's a member of the CCP or you have close connections, you don't get to attend any of our universities, you're not going to get that visa. This is common sense if you fully appreciate, I think, the threat that is China and how they view themselves on the world stage. We should have never let them in the World Trade Organization. We need to appreciate now who they really are. Absolutely.
Yeah, he's right. President Trump has made this a priority as well. Even before this case was brought to our attention, he's called for a vetting of the foreign students who are filling up our institutions. Where places like Harvard are now made up of 31% foreign students. That's why Harvard's screaming when he says you can't have these foreign students in here. Secretary of State Marco Rubio just last week announcing, quote, the U.S. will begin revoking visas of Chinese students, including those with connections to the Chinese Communist Party or study in critical fields, which is basically all of them. This is way overdue. I applaud this. Trump's critics like neocon Bill Kristol quick to call this move making a problem out of nothing. Bill Kristol's an idiot. He's an idiot. Listen to this guy. His foot in his mouth and his head up his, well, you know.
And the idea of just going to exclude them now, for what reason? What damage are, I mean, really think about this for a minute, family. I mean, you understand this, but what damage are international students doing to anyone? Right? Has anyone, do you travel around the country, has anyone said, you know what's really a problem in the U.S.? Having these international people, these foreign students come here and study in college or go to medical school or have postdocs where they work on various efforts to cure various diseases. I mean, this is a non-problem that the Trump administration has invented as a problem, mostly to go after the institutions of higher education, and also it fits with their general nativism and attempt to sort of make everything foreign seem evil and dangerous.
Bill's problem is he's a moron. He calls foreign students assets to the United States, but Bill, sometimes they're assets to the Chinese Communist Party, and you're just too stupid to get it. U of M isn't my state's only weak spot. Governor Gretchen Whitmer has given China the green light to build battery plants despite the protests of Michigan residents, the people she was allegedly elected to serve. In July of 2023, she hosted Zhen Li, a Chinese Communist Party member and Goshen High-Tech chairman, at the Mackinac governor's residence. Goshen is a CCP allied industrial company attempting to build a battery plant on hundreds of acres that it owns outside of Mecosta County. It's less than 100 miles from where the Michigan National Guard does its training with the Taiwanese military. Coincidence? No, of course not. Michigan residents in Green Charter Township did their best to block the company's efforts to infiltrate their own town, but say that the fight is going to have to continue because Goshen is not stopping. Here it is, one last comment.
We've got a small win here, and it was because we didn't get any help from Michigan, but we called the federal EPA in, and the federal EPA came up here and they got back some of the land for us. But they're still moving forward. They have 200.
Yeah, and it just continues. Governor Whitmer allowing China to take over. Ford Motor Company also has ties to the Chinese Communist Party. It is one thing after another after another. John Molinar is right. Kash Patel is right. And President Trump is right to try to rein in these folks and eliminate the long tentacles of the Chinese Communist Party here in America. You've been warned, folks. Be vigilant. I'll be back.